Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center at 1550 North High Street in Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes are online at gatewayfilmcenter.com.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Johnny DiLoretto, and this is Cinema Classics.
Yeah.
We are at Gateway Film Center as usual, and new movie came out recently. This is what you wanted to talk about?
Yes.
Me?
It kind of reflects the 80s, don't you think? Or these are all children of these films in the 80s about high school coming of age
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
And beginning.
That was big in the 80s.
Yeah.
And you know, we're nostalgic now for that period of time, so we're probably seeing a little blip on the cinematic radar. We're seeing a resurgence in the coming of age movie.
Yeah. Besides which, teenage years are always fodder for good stories.
Yeah.
Okay. And perhaps one of the most famous ones in 1982, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, was that 1982?
Yes.
Yikes.
Amy Heckerling
Yeah.
and Judge
Yeah.
Reinhold.
That movie is so great. And you know, you look back on that, and Sean Penn as Jeff Spicoli.
Oh my God.
He gives one of the iconic comedy performances of that decade,
Triple S.
and then becomes the world's most serious,
I know.
self-serious actor.
He's a surfer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a stoner.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a slacker.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
he's
great.
all together in one. It is a great role. It really is set him
Yeah,
up.
it was one of those. Yeah, it was one of those roles that when you saw this guy, and that you couldn't imagine that he would become, you know, such a brooding Brando-esque type of guy, but he did.
Oh, the next year, one of our favorite.
And by the way, let's not move on from Fast Times at Ridgemont High School. Every high school guy should see that movie. There's so much to deal with, and then you know that they deal with unwanted pregnancy,
Oh yeah.
masturbation.
Yeah.
You know, which I know you know.
I do.
You probably have to cut that out. It's okay.
Cameron
just
Crowe,
gets
right?
It was written by Cameron
Yeah,
Crowe,
all right.
but directed by Amy Heckerling, and it just gets at so much of that anxiety and insecurity and that painful self-awareness that you suffer through.
Yeah.
And Jeff Spicoli is the relief from all that. He's a guy who doesn't suffer any of it.
And the term coming from this is teensploitation.
Oh, yes. That would come later.
Now next year is one of your favorites,
Mm-hmm.
and a favorite of mine, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Risky Business.
Risky Business. Rebecca De Mornay.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
That movie was a strange movie. I can remember seeing that movie as a kid. It had this strange, dark vibe to it that I couldn't quite understand as a young, kid. But I knew something interesting was going on. I knew it was funny, but even though I didn't quite get why, he basically runs a prostitution ring out of his house, right?
Yeah.
While his parents are on vacation, and runs afoul of Guido the pimp, played by Joe Pantaleone,
Oh,
Joey
God.
Pants.
Oh.
But those scenes of Tom Cruise and Rebecca De Mornay,
Yeah,
especially
boy.
that love scene. There's one in the subway train. There's one at his house, and man, those are seared into my prepubescent brain.
Every high school senior should see that.
Oh my God.
And how about, didn't he have a dance in there?
Yeah, of course, that has been
the old time rock
imitated,
and roll.
has been imitated and alluded to and or paid homage to in countless films.
Now, one that is maybe less salacious, I think, is The Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
John Hughes in '83 about how out of it adults really are.
Right, that movie means so much to a lot of people. It was probably a seminal movie. Because it did take I think that's interesting, because I think these other movies that we just mentioned, adults play an interesting peripheral role, but they're not necessarily maybe the moron villains that
Okay, right.
that the principal in The Breakfast Club is. But that's John Hughes. Many consider it to be his masterpiece. I always felt like John Hughes was just a little too, a little too broad for me to really get at powerful, painful truths.
Okay.
Like much in the way that Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of Cameron Crowe, who was just a very observant, astute writer. But John Hughes had something that tapped into the masses.
And that
They
lack
responded to.
that lack of communication between parents and kids, which is so pervasive, of that time in their lives, and works for almost any age, I think did well here. But it doesn't have that crisp interior that you're talking about there.
Mhm.
Now, we do know that in a darker way,
Yeah.
Heathers in '88,
Sure.
with who else but Winona Ryder?
Right. I got a confession to make.
You've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
I know.
I've never seen it. I'll tell you, because at that time, I was in high school at that time, and I was a budding film nerd,
Okay.
and I was devouring the classics at that point, and the modern classics, and I loved Jack Nicholson, and I couldn't stand that there was this kid, Christian Slater, who was eking out a career by doing a cheap Jack Nicholson impersonation. So I sort of just avoided anything he was in, and then I just never made my way back. Now, it turns out that Christian Slater ended up being in one of my favorite movies, which is True Romance. So
All right. So you're
so
right.
all's forgiven.
But could we jump ahead? I hate jumping ahead 11 years. There's probably
Jump.
plenty
Why
in
not?
there.
This is your show.
It's our show and American Pie.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is filled with sex jokes. It's all kinds.
Sure.
This is a really good example of that, and I don't know, and that's the one where you get much of your kind of seedy stuff,
See,
particularly
this is-
masturbation.
Right. Well, remember Animal House
Yeah, yeah,
and Porky's?
yeah.
There's that like teens trying to get laid.
Oh yeah, this is their virgin.
Thing.
They're trying not to be virgins anymore.
Right.
So they,
Right.
right.
This-
they're
this-
poor
this-
seniors.
This holy grail. And American Pie sort of revisited that in the late '90s, going back to that Animal House tradition, the Porky's tradition, where guys are just trying anything that they can. Of course, Jason Biggs is a sort
Yes.
of neurotic version of what those characters were like, but
A little bit like Heathers, Mean Girls. Not, of course, is this.
also never seen it.
Well, Lindsay Lohan was in it in 1994.
But my kid likes that movie, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this has a lot to say about cliques,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that'll never go away in high school. You get much more modern when you go into 97. Listen, 3, 2, 1. You get much more modern when you get into 2007.
Yeah.
And then you get into the iconic, practically Superbad.
Yeah, super bad. Which brought all of this stuff back.
Yeah,
Yeah, and again, that's more about two kids trying to secure alcohol.
well, it's still
Right.
a lot of sex in it, though, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
yeah.
you can't get away from that. But
I mean, these seniors are all sex starved.
Mhm.
And it's Seth Rogen, who wrote it.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of his great career. And
Would you
then,
call it great?
yeah, I think he's marvelous.
Well, he's definitely making money.
Yeah, and he's playing a straighter role now. I think he's playing a writer whose name I've forgotten, the famous writer he's going to be coming on. So he was great as the slacker, and then I think he moved into a more significant role now. But anyway, he's then we got the one that just came out that I love so much, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, these two guys who make who take off on movies, so they have videos all over the place with like 2:30 a.m. Cowboy. They changed the title.
Oh,
so they're-
okay.
so they're real mirrors. And this one kid's mom wants him to make friends with a girl who's been diagnosed with leukemia in
Okay.
his class. He doesn't want to do it, and he does it, and he connects with her. They connect, but not in a sexual way. They connect slowly. The two of them become simpatico, and it's a really lovely one. And by the time she dies, it's no secret. He tells us in the voiceover that she's not going to die, but he's lying.
Yeah.
Because in the end, she does die.
Do you think that's less of a spoiler if you say that he tells us at the beginning of the I mean, most people are worried about spoiling the ending, but you just spoiled the beginning.
You're
Just
right.
spoiled the beginning of the movie.
Oh, my bad. But anyway, so it seems to be very modern, very complicated, but in the end, what is so surprising about it is not maudlin.
Hmm.
It just is, that's what happens. She helps him to get into college. They do things together, da-da-da. Now, I notice I didn't mention Ferris Bueller's Day
Da da
Off.
da, by the way, is John's own signature version of yada 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 or blah blah blah. Da 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 da. It's very musical.
So you mentioned John Hughes,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't mention Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, now see, that's my favorite.
I figured it
That
would
is, of all the John Hughes movies, I think that
Yeah,
one's my favorite. Mostly because Matthew Broderick
Oh, he
is
is.
just spectacular in that movie. And that's going to be our next downtown drive-in movie at the North Market.
Oh, all right. Are you
So-
zipping in
No,
as
I'm
any
not,
character?
I am not going to zip line into it, but we do have some fun plans for that one as well.